Okay, now it's time to look at some thesis statement examples so you can see our method in action. As you know, the thesis statement is the last sentence of an introduction, is the final sentence of an introduction, and it is the most important sentence in the entire essay. The thesis statement is so important because it actually controls the entire essay. It gives you the organization and the restrictions of the entire essay. Now, when it comes to the thesis statement, there are a couple of things that you must have inside that thesis statement. We should see the limited subject of the question. We should see your position, and also we should be able to know your blueprint of how you're going to explain your position or support your position. So let's look at some examples so that you can have a really, really good understanding of how to write a thesis statement. When a grader is looking at your essay, the grader is going to specifically look and see if you know how to write a thesis statement. Because if you write a bad thesis statement, they already are going to have a bad outlook of what you're going to present in your entire essay. So writing a really good thesis statement is very, very impressive to the graders. So let's take a look at this first question with the agree or disagree question. Now, this is the question that is talking about whether you should spend most of your time studying or doing other activities. As you know, I disagree. And so here's my thesis statement right here. Remember, this is the last sentence. This is the last sentence of the introduction. This is not the introduction, everybody. This is not the full introduction. This is only the thesis statement. While there are many factors that we could explore to take a position on this question, the two most important are GPA and opportunities. Keeping in mind these two factors, the only focus for university students should be on studying, right? So when you look at this, you see my position, which is only study, and you see my blueprint, which is GPA and also the opportunities, right? Now, a couple of things. With this thesis statement, what I'm doing is I'm showing you an example. I'm showing you an example of a two-sentence thesis statement. It is possible to have a two-sentence thesis statement. My preference is only to do it with one sentence, but it is possible to have a two-sentence thesis statement, and that's what I'm showing you here. Now also, I know that this word explore has an S on it. It should be explore, not explorers. So for those of you who might want to say, hey, why does he have explorers there? I know it should be explore, and I will go ahead and make that change. All right, let's take a look at another one. Now here is a to what extent do you agree or disagree? All right, so this is the question talking about the qualities of a person needs to become successful in today's world cannot be learned at a university or similar academic institution. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now here I mainly agree. Okay. Now look at my thesis statement. In fact, this is mainly true, right? So you see it, you see my position, right? You see my position. The reader knows my position. In fact, this is mainly true because sources outside of the realm of education provide qualities such as confidence and social skills the universities are only now beginning to realize as important to teach. Okay? So you have my position here. You have my position here. All right? And so you also have how I'm going to support my position, the blueprint of my position. Okay? All right. Now, I am going to partly agree with the other side, but remember, this is the one where I'm giving you an example of how you can partly agree and not do a complete agreement. As I said earlier in the other lectures, my preference is to always completely agree or completely disagree. Here's another, to what extent do you agree or disagree? With this one, we have a complete disagreement. And this is the question that's talking about the funds for postgraduate research are limited. Therefore, some people think that financial support should be given, financial support from the government should be provided. However, only scientific research should be funded rather than other less useful subjects. I completely disagree. Providing the entirety of the money towards science is a horrible idea. You have my position there, as arts and communication are equally deserving of this postgraduate financing. My position, give to other subjects. My blueprint, I'm going to talk about arts and communication. Here's an opinion question, right? So we look at this opinion question. This is the one about living longer today and how to explain it. Again, this is just the thesis statement. Just the thesis statement. Although there may be other factors explaining why we have such extended lives, two clear reasons relate to medicine and healthy food. The position is clear, the blueprint is clear. This is what the graders expect when they see your thesis statements in your introduction. Second example. This is the question about many countries, in many countries, school-age children. Okay, so now we're going to move to a describe, explain thesis statement. This is the question that's talking about that we are losing a lot of important natural resources, and we have to choose one, explain why it needs to be saved. My position is to choose the trees, and the blueprint is talking about animal habitats and human need. Despite there being various resources on the road towards extinction, the one most needing attention are the trees, as they affect animal habitat and enhance human life. That's a thesis statement, everybody. And look, if you notice a lot of my thesis statements, I'm using like complex sentences, a lot of complex sentences, compound sentences, because it's really about the quality of your sentences, the quality of your writing is what really, really is important. Now, here's one for a two-part question. This is the one that's talking about what are some other reasons that people work, and also to discuss one or more of these reasons. Now, we will briefly touch on motivations to work, including enjoyment, family pressure, and distraction, then provide a more detailed examination of social reinforcement as a driving force. This is another example of a thesis statement and how I would do a thesis statement with a two-part essay question. Here we have a discuss both sides where we're going to separate the opinion. This is the one question talking about some people say that it's best to be loyal and to work for one company during one's life. Others take the opposite view and say it is better to change jobs frequently in one's life. Discuss these positions, and then also make sure you tell which one you agree with. While this paper will outline the points for staying in one company, the better option is to change jobs due to inspiration and new friendships. Right now, when you look at this thesis statement, you know that I'm going to talk about both sides, and you also know what position I'm going to support, right? That's what you have to do. A lot of people do these general, boilerplate, non-specific thesis statements. And when you do that, you are hurting your grade, right? You're hurting your grade. You're not doing a proper thesis statement. And that's something that's required. Here's another discuss both sides question. And now with this one, of course, when you read the body paragraphs, you'll see that I'm integrating the opinion. Computers are being used more and more in education. Some people say that this is a positive trend, while others argue that it is leading to negative consequences. Discuss both sides. Again, this is just the thesis statement, the last sentence of the introduction. The more convincing argument rests with computer education promoters who look to research in modern society as key points. However, each side will be given its due in the paragraphs below. Right? There's a two-sentence thesis statement. Now we have a problem-solution thesis statement. This is the one that's talking about in many cities the population is increasing. Some say that the urbanization process denies us knowing our neighbors, and this causes a loss of community sense. What is the main problem with this? Right? So we have to discuss the problems and solutions. And when the grader looks at your thesis statement, they should have a clear idea that's going to be the direction of your essay. The chief problems associated with community loss relate to less safety and growth. However, there are potential solutions deriving from building community centers and holding monthly neighborhood activities. Here we have an advantage-disadvantage thesis statement. This is where we are going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of your way of life with that of your parents, and which way of life do you think will be more satisfying. Considering all angles, the next generation would find fulfillment from my time period if we examine the strength and weaknesses related to leisure and minority opportunities. Now, remember, with this version of the advantage-disadvantage question, I'm going to talk about it in terms of categories. Now, for this lecture, we're only talking about thesis statements, okay? Later on, you'll see the introduction, you'll see the body paragraphs, and then finally, at the end, in the last lectures, you're going to see all of the full essays with all the parts put together. So I know some people like to say, well, I want to see the whole thing put together. Well, what we're doing here is talking about the individual parts of a great essay. At the end, we're going to put it all together. Now, if you just want to look at the final product, just skip to the last few lectures, and you could just look at the final essays, okay? But now you're going to miss, of course, the explanation of the different parts. And that's really what it's about in terms of the learning process and the training process. However, if you just want to see the final product, that's what you should do, is just skip to the bottom. Okay, let's look at this advantage-disadvantage question. Some people think that it is a very good idea to bring your family when you have to travel overseas to study or work. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages. What is your opinion? Without question, workers should include the wife and kids when matriculating overseas for work. So you get my opinion right there. However, we will explain the points of the weaker position related to leaving family at home. Okay? So that is how we would write that thesis statement. So in the next lecture, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about, just very briefly, some questions about strong versus weak thesis statements, so you can avoid writing weak thesis statements. So I hope you enjoyed this very much, and I enjoyed teaching you the subject matter of thesis statements. The thesis statement is the most important sentence in the entire essay. All right, so I'll see you in the next lecture.